Hi, good evening. Buenas noches. This is Majo John Madden sitting in my camper van in Hidalgo, Texas, Rio Grande Valley, South Texas, 4 miles away from the big McAllen Hidalgo International Bridge to Reynosa, Mexico, where 3 weeks ago today I did successfully cross over because they were very busy at that bridge and they never checked my tags, which are expired, and had a 4-hour, pretty fascinating junket going east to the little town of Nuevo Progreso, where lots of Americans and Latinos like to cross over as an alternative, a safer and sweeter alternative to the Matamoros crossings. So I have a very real and personal connection with what went on in Matamoros this week, and I'll say more about that. I need to say a little bit about my history. I had semi-retired to Asheville, North Carolina from Chicago in 2004 and loved Asheville, had many wonderful experiences there. But the best experience was right at the end, where I kind of snapped out of a 30-year hypnosis where I had been convinced I had a mental illness, a bipolar disorder, which I never, ever did. I just spontaneously remitted from it, had a powerful spiritual experience, and over the course of 6 months convinced my psychiatrist to let me off all my meds and got better and better and better. When the COVID hit Asheville in March of 2020, a friend out in the mountains invited me to leave my subsidized senior apartment building right downtown in very charming Asheville. And she said, we used to live in that big house with all those other people, but I have a walk-in basement apartment on the side of a mountain. It's free now. Come out here, get away from the terrible shutdown city. It's a ghost town. So I did, and got even way happier out in the mountains, and was like, why have I been 16 years in Asheville living in town? Me and my chubby little chihuahua, Pancho, we went straight back to God out there. We got so happy. So happy. And I never went back to Asheville. I got a very old camper van, 88 Ford Econoline high-top hippie van, and began my grand adventure of traveling a year in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And then the following spring, my little chihuahua and I simultaneously got violently allergic to something that had just come out that day in the fabulous Big Ivy National Forest north of Asheville. Decided that it was time to implement my long dream of retiring to Mexico, to some sleepy little beach community. And after many adventures, some of them harrowing, especially in Louisville, Kentucky, where I spent the summer of 21 because my estranged grown son lives there, and I had been there, I think, 400 times to visit him, but never had gotten under the belly of that beast. Never knew how terrible the Louisville Metro Police Department were, but Breonna Taylor had been killed, and the thing was broken open. And I went right to the heart. I've always been someone who, if something looks scary, I go to the middle of it. And I got involved with Black Lives Matter and had many experiences there, including scary experiences with the police. But from there, my little chihuahua died tragically in New Orleans. It was our next stop. We spent from December 23rd of 21 to March 15th of 22 there for the whole Mardi Gras season, 6 weeks. I adored New Orleans and got so even more happy there, until my dog died on March. She got sick the 10th of March. Today's the anniversary of her getting suddenly violently sick, going into a emergency animal dog care place, and never came out. 4 days later, expired there, and I never got to see her because of COVID. I was so heartbroken that I left New Orleans because everything was reminding me of Little Pancho. I went up to Ponchatoula, ironic name, 50 miles north, which was the last place she had been healthy. On the way back to New Orleans, I hiked a swamp trail, and Little Pancho had been very present to me. And coming out of that swamp trail in the dark, she led to me, I'm positive. She led to me this spectacular hunting dog, Magic, who at 1 year old had been abandoned in the swamp. So he's my new partner in crime now, and he's unbelievable. We have spent 10 months queued up at the Gulf Coast of Texas and the Brownsville area, mostly back and forth between Padre Island, Beach Paradise, where we get so happy. He runs those dunes like a maniac, and I get super, super happy out there. And then back and forth to Brownsville, where we've been attempting to work out my document problems. My second van has a document problem that mostly I created without realizing it. I left the Blue Ridge Mountains kind of impulsively when I got so sick there, and knew that I had a violation against me for running a red light. There was another violation that I had never gotten a citation and didn't even know it was there. It was when I was in Kentucky that I got a call from the Buncombe County Police back in Asheville saying, "You missed 2 court dates. Your driver's license is expired, is suspended." And I've not been able to get a driver's license or insurance or new tags for this car. So I'm a triple threat and have many, many encounters with police who in Texas are supposed to impound the vehicle and arrest me for driving this way. And they never do. Most of them have been Latino. And the other one was not Latino, but deeply Christian, and he could not do that to me. Couldn't do it to me. They all say, "Okay, you're going to Mexico. Go." So I have spent 10 months studying the various border crossings, crossing in 3 different towns along the Rio Grande Valley, including 3 times across the Big Gateway Bridge in Brownsville, Matamoros, where the kidnappings happened. I have a lot of experience and a lot of conversations with people about to what extent is Matamoros dangerous. And everybody feels differently. The most intimate information I got about Matamoros came during a 6-day bromance with a man I met because I had taken his estranged wife in off the street, let her sleep in one of the seats in my camper van while I slept in back, because she said my husband is going to meet me at 5 o'clock in the morning right at the Brownsville exit for that Gateway Bridge, the biggest bridge crossing in Brownsville. And I took her there to meet him, and it was gotten clear by then that she was a deeply disturbed person, both emotionally and terrible heroin habit. And he was cool. Her husband was awesome. He was smart, charming, and I took him aside and said, "What are you even doing with her?" And he says, "Well, I'm really loyal to her. She was good to me at a tough time in my life when I had a terrible motorcycle accident and was amnesic for my whole life, and I still am. I only remember the last 13 years. She was good to me, and I'm sticking with her. But the tricky part is I work for the cartel in Matamoros, and she's a loose cannon. She can't be trusted. When she's high, she'll blab anything, and they want her killed. They say if she appears on the streets of Matamoros with me, she will be picked up, which means nobody ever sees her again." And his story, which she believed, she'd been married to him for 13 years. And my dog is chasing something out there. Magic, what are you chasing? Was there I think it was a feral cat. He loves cats, but if they run, he can't resist. She believed his story that he had for 9 years been hitman for the Matamoros Cartel, because I think at this point, I don't know what parts of his story are true, but I think it probably is true that he had been a special forces trained killer for the U.S. Armed Forces in the Middle East. And that I think it may be true that the cartel does recruit those folks as hitmen. But so much is not true. When he told me that the last big drug cartel war, that he said, I've survived 3 drug cartel wars when other cartels have tried to muscle in our turf in Matamoros. And my picture went viral around the world because I was standing in the background in the hotel room where the son of the rival cartel had been murdered. And he says, that was my hit. I did that. And not true. It was not true. But his wife believed all this, amazingly. And she believed that the reason she was homeless on the streets of Brownsville was because she couldn't join him in Matamoros, and he was protecting her from getting killed. And he really glommed onto me. He liked me an awful lot, and he told me so much about the cartel. He called me a couple times a day. He took me across to Matamoros to take me to the cartel casino and show me a good time. He really took me under his wing, and he said, I'll get you across. I'll get you across. We know how to do all that. We're going to get you Mexican license plates, Mexican driver's license. We will change the VIN number on your car. It's going to be a brand new car. $1,300. And it was worth it. Seemed totally worth it to me. I was to meet him December 3rd, Friday evening, at the foot of the Gateway Bridge there. Give him my money. And then at 2 in the morning, we were going to go to the Veterans Bridge, the other bridge, and cross there. And everything would start from there. So I met him at 9 o'clock in Brownsville, right at the foot of the bridge. And he said, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is I got you a much better deal. It's going to be $700 for the whole package. The bad news is I made a really stupid bonehead mistake. The reason it's so much cheaper is my boss, the Jefe, the head of the cartel, was getting the $1,300. He's the one who was going to arrange all that. I got a cheaper deal somewhere else and took it. And he found out, and he is pissed at me. I don't know what's going to happen. He said, if his dad was still the head of the cartel, I'd have been disciplined at least. And he gave me very graphic detail that I'll spare you of what that means. As he told, he does know people in the cartel. It is true that he knows people in the cartel. So some of this may be true. I'll never know what parts were true and what were not. But when he took my money and never reappeared at 3 in the morning, and never again was I able to reach him, I was sure he'd been killed, and his wife, and spent the next 2 months, I think 2 months, believing that. And the next thing that kicked in was he had told me a lot about cartel hits, and no bodies on the pavement, no witnesses, get rid of the bodies. The place when I let her stay in the van with me that one night, we went to the huge parking lot for the community college here, Southmost College, and it's beautiful. It's totally empty and woods on the side. And so we had the camper van there that night. And when I told him the next day where we had been, he says, yeah, I know that spot. It's a depository, which means that's where we dump bodies if we dispatch them on the U.S. side. And I knew the manja, I think that's the name for the cartel security guys who cruise around in big black pickup trucks. He says, they're watching you. They're taking care of you because you're my buddy. When he did not come back and I assumed he had been snuffed by the cartel, I thought, no witnesses. They certainly know that he was meeting me, that I would have been the last person to see him alive. We're in danger. So by 9 that morning, I was on the run. We left Brownsville pretty unceremoniously and drove to Nuevo Progreso, 30 miles down the border, where the word is that there's no cartel presence. They have no interest in that little pea-shit town. And it's a very fun, easy, informal place to cross. So it was 2 months later when in Port Isabel, 30 miles north of here, the gateway to the beautiful Padre Island, at a convenience store, this woman was walking across the big parking lot to me, obviously wanting to see me, and she seemed to know me, and I thought she looked familiar, but it was only when she got close I said, "Angel, you're dead. I've spent the last 2 months sure that you are dead." And she said, "Everything he ever told either of us is a lie. It's all a lie. All of it. He never worked for the cartel." She says, "I asked the manja, the security guards, did Richard really work for the cartel? No. He was, a little hanger-on. We liked him, but no, he never worked for the cartel. Hitman? No. But he was such a good con man. The night he took me across to Matamoros, he said, "I better call my boss, the Jefe, because I'm supposed to be working tonight." So I'm guessing there was nobody at the other end of the line, as he had a conversation where he said, "Well, where's the Jefe? I don't want to talk to lieutenants." "No." "Okay, so what's the deal?" "No, I don't do hits anymore. I only do recon. I set them up. That's all I do." "No." Okay, one last time. I'll put a bullet in him, but no beheadings. I don't do that. You have other people who like doing that stuff. I won't do that. This was astonishing for me in the backseat with my dog, listening to this conversation. And then he makes another call and he says, "I want you to handle this. I don't do this anymore. You take care of it. And you know the drill. Clean, no bodies on the pavement, no eyewitnesses. Just a good, quick hit, okay? Thank you. I appreciate it." That was way outside of my comfort zone. Nothing I had experienced in my life. So at this point, I don't know what parts were true, but I think I know a lot more about the cartel than the average gringo does. And I am still planning to cross over, even though my plates are still expired, because 3 weeks ago at this crossing, they were just too busy and they never looked. And I am going to attempt either here on Monday when it's super busy, or at Progreso, where I'm planning to spend tomorrow night, where on Sunday it's super busy. I'm kind of leaning towards that now. So that's my story. There's lots more stories about Padre Island and the Rio Grande Valley, which I know pretty well now. And I'm going to include some other materials and send them to you. Thank you. I'm going to do another video tomorrow night from that huge parking lot at the Progreso crossing where we love to park, and where you can hear the sounds of the beggars. You can hear the sounds from the cantinas over in Nuevo Progreso, and you can hear the enforcement sounds, sirens and such, when there's an infraction at the border. All right, bye.